Morning, little Twixie. Boy, do I have some fun ideas for today's projects. Well, good morning, my friends. Welcome back. It is so good to see all of you. I hope this finds you all well and happy and well rested. We are going to jump into some super fun projects today. I'm excited to share these with y'all. These are some fun designs that I literally had a dream about. Does this ever happen to any of you? You know, I feel like oftentimes as creatives, we wake up sometimes in the middle of the night with just these great ideas and we're like, oh, I think I can make that happen. Or you'll have a dream about something and you're like, yeah, that's a great design idea. So that is exactly how these projects today came to me. I literally had a dream about them. I woke up in the middle of the night. I started sketching. So I'm excited to get started on these projects. We're going to jump into some really fun resin, some quick set resin projects, and then we're going to create a really beautiful tablescape, a tablescape. We're going to do that too, but we're also going to build a really pretty centerpiece for our holiday tablescapes. Okay, y'all, so without further ado, go grab your coffees, your teas, your favorite hot beverage, whatever that may be, and let's get to creating. For our first project today, we are going to play with some resin and some resin molds, and we're just going to do a little experiment. I have no idea if this is even going to work out, so we're just going to try this together. Fingers crossed, hope for the best that this project is actually going to work, because I have these darling little molds and I've wanted to play with them for quite some time, but I just wasn't sure what to make with them. So we're going to attempt making some fun resin pours and turn these cute little molds into some, hopefully, some darling little napkin rings. This is the cute mold that I have that I'm excited to work with. I've had this mold for a while, wasn't sure how I could put this to creative use. So we're going to be using this mold. We're also going to need some really cool craft rings, some measuring cups, and of course our quick set casting resin. And I will have this linked in the description box for y'all. We're going to need some stirring sticks and some creativity. So here we go, y'all. Okay, so the very first thing that we need to do is mix our resins. So when you purchase this, it comes in two parts. You have part A and part B, and we are going to mix these equally. So in this case, I am using a 1/2 ounce of part A and then a 1/2 ounce of part B. So it does take 1 ounce to fill 2 of the cavities in this mold. I did want to just start with 2 in case my plan didn't really work out. I didn't want to waste a bunch of resin because y'all know this stuff can be a little spendy. So when you first mix the two together, you're going to get this cloudy mixture. Now we want to just stir this, and you want to stir really well to fully incorporate the two mixtures together. So like I said, it'll be a little bit cloudy, and I usually stir for about 30 to 35 seconds until that cloudiness dissipates. Dissipates. Yeah, that's right. That's how you say that, right? Anyway, until the cloudiness sort of disappears. And then it is now ready to pour into our mold. So I'm going to start with this cute little leaf and then a little acorn, and hopefully this is gonna work. Okay, so now I want to add the rings to this, and something to be aware of with this quick set resin, y'all, is it does set up really fast. So this is after about 6 minutes. It starts to set. You know it's starting to set when the resin begins turning white. So in my mind, I thought, okay, this is a good time to add the rings before it's fully set. So I sat them in there and then let the resin completely set up around them. And I did have to literally sit and hold these into place for about 3 minutes. And yeah, it was a little tedious, but it did the trick. It did what I was hoping it would do until I demolded them. And then I was like, oh, I don't like this little divot in the back. So when I put the ring in there, it kind of left a big indent. And I didn't like that. I really want a nice flush pour against the back. So I do have a plan B. We'll go ahead and demold the leaf, and it did the same thing on the leaf. It's not quite as bad. I mean, the front side looks really beautiful. The back though just has that big dent. So again, I have a plan B. Let's go ahead and try this one more time. Okay, so I did get a little sidetracked here because I started thinking, before I pour more of these, I should make sure that my napkin's going to fit through these rings. The rings that I'm using here are only 1.5 inches, and they were kind of small, especially after you put them into the mold, but the napkin did go in. I really would like to have used 2-inch rings. However, the 2-inch rings didn't fit into my molds. So, but I did get the napkin there, and so decided to go ahead and make our second pour. So I've mixed up another batch of the resin, just enough to fill 2 of the cavities here in our mold. I'm going to do a cute little acorn and a pumpkin, and I did have a tiny little bit extra, so I went ahead and poured it into another mold. There was just a little tiny bit in there, and you can add resin on top of this after it sets, and it will completely mold together. Okay, so this time, instead of waiting for these to start setting up, I'm going to go ahead and add my rings now. And I will tell y'all, while I was waiting for this to set up, it felt like an eternity.
2,000 years later.
So already I can tell that I have a much better pour here. The rings set up nicely around the mold, and it's flush across the back. And so I just think it looks a lot cleaner and a lot prettier than our first 2 molds. I did get this one on the acorn pushed in just a little too far, so you can see a little bit of the ring on the edges. But I think once we get that painted, you won't notice that as much. So you can see the difference here from the first one on the right to the second one on the left. It's a much, much better pour. So I've gone ahead and made a whole bunch of these, y'all, and I do love how these have turned out. I think they're so cute. They're going to be so fun to paint. I can hardly wait to get these painted. Oops, a little bit of clumsiness going on there. Sometimes I just have the biggest butterfingers. So you can see on some of these, I did get the ring pushed in a little too far. So one thing to keep in mind is you really only want to push the ring in while you're holding it, waiting for the resin to set. You only want to push it in about 1/8 of the way, maybe 1/4 of the way. You don't have to push it all the way through, especially with these smaller molds, because if you push it all the way through, it's going to shrink the opening of the ring and your napkins may not fit through the ring properly. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you are pouring these. But I'm happy with how they turned out, and I think they are going to be the cutest napkin rings. Okay, y'all, well, that was pretty successful. A lot more successful than I thought it was going to be. I'm excited. I'm happy with these, and I can't hardly wait to paint them. But before we move on to painting our cute little napkin rings, project number 2 is going to be another resin project. I have these really cute little 3D pumpkin molds. So I thought it would be fun to pour some resin into these and see if we can turn them into some really cute place card holders for our fall or holiday tablescapes. So let's go jump right into project number 2. To make our place card holders, I have these really fun 3D pumpkin molds. And I'm actually excited to use these because, again, I've had these for a while and just wasn't sure what I would do with them. And now I have a good purpose for them. So I'm going to go ahead, mix up our resin again. And this time I am mixing, I believe this was 3 ounces. I believe it took 3 ounces to fill these 2 3D molds. And you do want to make sure that you are mixing equal parts. So 1.5 ounce of part A, 1.5 ounce of part B. Mix it thoroughly until that cloudiness starts to go away. And once that happens, it is ready to pour into the molds. You also want to be really careful not to overflow your mold, so I do suggest pouring very slowly for this part. And literally after 10 minutes, these are ready to demold, and I love this part. It's just so satisfying. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's like magic when you pour that liquid resin in and then it sets up into something so solid. It's such a cool process. I really do love using this quick set resin. Okay, so here are our cute little pumpkins. The bigger one I'm going to use for our place card holders, and the smaller one I just thought was cute and fun. I feel like all of our resin pours were pretty darn successful, and I am super excited about these. So now we get to jump into the best part, in my opinion, the painting. I love painting pretty much anything, and I feel like we definitely do a lot of that. I feel like every project we make has to be painted in some way or another. So y'all, let's go play with some paints and see if we can't give our cute little napkin rings and place card holders a whole fun new look. Moving on to my absolute favorite step of all of our projects, that is the painting. I love to paint, y'all, whether I am painting on canvas, wood pieces, or cute little resin pumpkins. Painting is my favorite step to almost every project that we do. I love how you can use paint to really transform a piece, especially when you start working in layers. It just gives the piece so much depth. So for all of these pieces, the little 3D pumpkins and all of our napkin rings, I'm going to come in and do a base coat. And I do 2 coats of paint on this. I'm using some Waverly chalk paint, and I will have the colors that I used on these pieces listed in the description box for y'all. So we'll go ahead and get the first and second coats, the base coats down on all of our pieces. So I've got 2 coats of paint on everything. These probably could have used 3 coats, but I think when we come in with our, our layers, our defining layers, that'll be okay. And this is 2 coats, and these look fabulous. They look great. These ones don't stand up on their own very well. And I've got 2 coats on these. I didn't paint the bottoms, but since these are just for my own personal use, I'm like, it's okay, because they're just going to be decoration. But they did look set up really well with the 2 coats. So I'm pleased with that. So now we can go ahead and start coming in with all of our layering and defining colors. I think this step is probably the most vital step of all. Getting the base coat on, it makes them transform just in and of itself. But once you start bringing in some layers, it really brings these pieces to life. So after my base coat has been completely dried, I am going to come back in with all of these and just add a little blend of color. So I put one color on one side of my brush, another color on the other side, and just start blending all of these together. And I do this with a gentle hand and almost a dry brush. So I do dab my brush onto a paper towel and sort of just dry brush this second layer onto all of the pieces. And you can see how much it just changes the pieces and transforms them and gives them so much life and character. So for our little acorns, The only thing I'm going to do to really change these is on the top, I'm adding some burnt umber to this to just deepen that top section. And then for the bottoms, I am just using a very dry brush and just sort of dry brushing in some little streakies to just give this a little depth. And you can sort of see how I did this. It just adds so much to the piece. And it's such a simple step. Just adding in a little bit of that second color. And on our cute little pumpkins, I'm coming in here with a really small detail brush, painting the stems with some burnt umber. And then, so you can sort of see, so this is after just doing that first layer, the base layer, and then coming in with that second coat, and you can just see how much it adds to the piece. So on our little pumpkins, I am going to use a detail brush and come in with a darker, I'm using some burnt umber here, and I'm just going to, with a dry brush, gently add a little bit into each of the sections of the pumpkin just to add in some shadow and give this a whole lot of depth. I really do think that this extra detail is so worth it because look at the difference. So my pumpkin on the left is the one where I added that shading into the sections, and the one on the right didn't have any of that, and you could definitely see the difference. So after I have gotten all of these painted, I'm going to come in and seal all of this in with just some clear wax, and I'm just using the Waverly clear wax here to do this. I brush it on, give it about an hour to dry, and then I do come in with a soft cloth and buff it, and this is how they all look finished. I love these. I think they turned out so good, and I definitely think it was worth taking the extra time to just do that second and third detail layer. Oh, aren't these so cute, y'all? I love how these turned out. This is just so fun. So in case you were wondering how I folded that napkin, I thought I would just take a second to show you. I literally am just using an extra large square napkin here. I folded it in thirds, and these ones do have some fringe on the bottom, so I made sure that that fringe was facing down, and then you just add your napkin ring to the top layer, and just like that, you have a cute little bow shape. I also thought it would be super fun to do this with some towels, some kitchen towels, and then drape it over the stove. And how cute is that? Okay, y'all, so now let's work on our place card holders. So I'm going to turn the larger of the pumpkins that we casted into some place cards, and I have these place card holders that I found on Amazon, and I will have them linked for y'all. And then I just cut the base off. They came with the base, and I obviously don't need that, so I cut it off, and it did take a little bit of brute strength and some muscle to get that cut off, but I did it. Now I just want to come in with a really teeny tiny drill bit and drill a small hole in that. I give it just a quick dry fit to make sure that I did use the right size bit, and then I'll go ahead and dip our place card holder into some Gorilla Construction adhesive. I'm using the clear glue here, and I'll have that linked for y'all as well. And then I just place it into the pumpkin and give this about 24 hours to fully set, and then you can go ahead and place your place card in here. And how cute are these, y'all? I love these. I just think this is so fun, and it's going to add so much to the holiday tablescapes. Or you could even put a fun Thanksgiving thankful quote in these as well. Okay, I hope y'all are having fun and enjoying these projects so far. I think we have time to work on one more because I'm just not quite ready to be done crafting yet. So for our last project today, we're going to create a fun centerpiece. And it's fitting, I think, since the projects that we've created so far are very tablescape themed. Why not make a pretty centerpiece? So let's go jump into doing a little floral and greenery arranging and see if we can make something pretty for the table. I had mentioned to Michael a couple of days ago that I would love to have a rustic box to create the centerpiece in. And I wanted to just sort of create it off of this design, this little green box that you see here. I made this like maybe 30 years ago, and I wanted to use the same design, only a larger scale. And Michael, y'all, is he just not the sweetest? So I had mentioned it to him, and I was away visiting my daughter, and when I came back to this lovely little surprise. So he actually made the box for me when I wasn't here. I love it. It's just so sweet, and he's using some really old pallet wood, so it gives it that just extra rustic feel. And like I said, I wasn't here when he made this, so I can't explain everything, but I will let Michael take it from here.
Because we're using old boards, we're going to check and make sure how twisty they are and how nice and flat they are. So this will be the bottom, these will be the sides, and then this one will get cut up and make the edges.
Because this box does have some angled edges on it, or some angled pieces in it, Michael had to decide on what that angle was going to be. So he's using his triangle to create the angles, and then he'll take it over to the chop saw to make those cuts. Michael was sweet enough to draw up plans for this entire box, and I will have those available for y'all as a free download, and the link for those will be listed in the description box. Okay, so here are the angles all drawn out, and this is the angle that Michael's going to cut these side pieces on, and he's just going to use the chop saw to do this. After getting the front and back pieces cut, he can now move on to the side pieces, and he's just using those front and back pieces to measure out the side pieces, and then he'll take it back to the chop saw to get the correct angle on the cuts.
Now to figure out the angle we want these at, we just line up the bottom here to the bottom of this, and we mark a line, and we make sure that this is flush with that. And we got a good one, so we just mark our line. We do this same thing on this side, and then we'll cut that off on the miter saw, and so then we'll have perfectly flat bottom, so that when it sits like this, it's good to go. So here's the bottom fitted in, so now you can see how all those angles go. And it's just sitting here loosely, so I could move it. But yeah, so that's how it fits on there. And then the other piece sits on top of there. Oh, so right now we have all the pieces sanded to 320 grit. Oh, so smooth. Now we'll go ahead and put it together, and then we'll do that final little decorative cut, and we'll call this project done.
And to begin the assembly of this cute little planter box that he is building for me, or centerpiece box, he is going to come in with some good quality wood glue and glue all of the pieces together. And rather than using clamps to do this, Michael just did come in with some brad nails. This just gives it some extra security while that glue is setting up, and it also gives him the ability to continue moving forward with building the box. So after he gets all of the pieces assembled, assembled on this first side, he does come in and do some pre-drilling here because he is going to add some screws to this. And I love the screws that he chose to use here because it just gave it a really fun decorative element. It almost gives it that rustic industrial feel. Yeah, I do think I really like the screws on this. So he just added 2 screws to each side, and then he does come across the bottom, pre-drills this for the screws again, and then I do believe he added 4 across the bottom, 4 or 5 across the bottom. And then he'll just go ahead and repeat this same exact step to the other side.
So here I'm going to cut a 45-degree angle through the side to make it decorative.
And here it is, all finished. I do love how this turned out. It's so cute. For the stain on this, I simply just used some Waverly antiquing wax for this. I love using this for a stain because number 1, it has no smell. Number 2, it dries almost instantly. So I just brushed it off and then came in with a dry, soft, clean towel and wiped away the excess, and you just get this beautiful stained color. Okay, so now we could go ahead and start building our centerpiece. And I found this piece of floral foam at Walmart. It really, truly was just a fluke that it fit absolutely perfect in this box. I didn't have to cut anything down. Okay, so y'all have seen me do floral arrangements a dozen times. So anytime I'm building a piece like this, I like to work in layers. Very similar to the way I paint, I work in layers. So the first thing I'm going to do is come in with some of this cute little boxwood picks that I have. I found these at Walmart. They're really inexpensive and you get a pretty good bundle in each pick. So I'm just going to create a base all the way around this using this boxwood. After getting the base built up or filled in, I'm going to go ahead and start building this piece up from the outside in. And I do want to create a little bit of height in the very center. So to fill this in, I'm just using some bigger pieces that might be a little bit bushier. And I do want some of these pieces to sort of cascade over the side. So I just continue filling this in, working the perimeter, and then almost until you can't see that floral foam anymore. And then to fill in the center, I'm going to come in with some of these faux hydrangeas. And I love hydrangeas in the fall. They're one of my favorite flowers. And for some reason, they just remind me of fall. I guess it's because they kind of bloom at their prettiest during the fall season, and then you can cut them and dry them. And I do end up adding some of my real dried hydrangeas to this. I also do come in with some pine cones just to give this a little bit of contrast because we did have a lot of green going on here.
Alrighty, y'all. So our cute little napkin ring holders are made. Our place card holders are made. The centerpiece is made, and I got so excited that I could hardly wait to get it all styled on the table. So I've gone ahead and created a fun little neutral holiday or neutral fall tablescape for y'all. So are you ready to take a look at everything all put together? Let's go.
was just way too much fun. I am so excited about how well everything turned out. I especially feel particularly excited about our napkin rings because, you know, not all ideas that I come up with actually work, and I was a little uncertain about this one. You know, we started out, it was a little shaky, but we made it work, and I love how they all turned out. I especially enjoyed the painting process because I just love how with paint you can just add so many fun details. So these ones were a lot of fun for me, and I'm happy with how they turned out. I think our little pumpkin place card holders are so sweet. They're just gonna add so much fun festivity to the holiday table. And of course, our centerpiece turned out really pretty. I did have a few moments with that one and was like, I'm just gonna take this whole thing apart and start all over. But in the end, I feel really good about it, and I like how it turned out. I'm super curious if y'all have a favorite of the three today from today's projects. If you do, please let me know down in the comments below. I really do love to hear from y'all. Alrighty friends, well that is going to wrap up today's projects. I really hope that y'all enjoyed all of these, the three that we worked on today. I hope they inspired you, gave you some fun ideas for your holiday tablescapes. Next week, I've got some really cool projects coming your way. So y'all come back to see me again next week. Until then, take care, and I will see y'all soon. Bye. Okay, yeah. Actually, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. I have an idea. It's an idea. No, I have an idea. Yes, I have an idea. Our dining tablescapes for the blunder. I need my director. Director, where'd the director go? I need some words. I need some thoughts. I need some ideas. Oh, director, where are you? Oh, yeah, wait, that's me. I'm the director. All right, that's a wrap.